morning, students. Today we are going to have an introductory discussion on problem solving strategies and algorithms. The objective of this course is to introduce yourself with problem solving strategies and also to introduce problem programming skills. The objective of this particular lecture to brief about problem solving strategies, algorithm definition, characteristics of algorithm, and the demonstration of algorithm, writing with the help of an example. Now, what is problem solving strategy? It is a precise step by step instructions to solve any given computational problem in the form of computational process. The success of a computer in solving any given computational problem depends on how correctly and precisely we define the problem, design a solution which is termed as algorithm, and implement the solution which is termed as program using a particular programming language. The computational process is described with the help of a systematic notation by using a programming language. Here in this particular course, the programming language that we are going to use is C programming language. Computational process in the present context means a set of steps that a machine can perform for solving problem. However, computers unfortunately do what we tell them to do, not necessarily what we want them to. Therefore, while giving these instructions, while writing the instructions, we should be very much careful and we should know what are the characteristics that we are supposed to follow while writing strategies for solving a problem. There must be no ambiguity in the instructions that we give to a computer in our programs. There is no possibility of alternative instructions. So each and every instruction which will be part of this problem solving unambiguous. Consider here we are considering a problem statement, computational problem statement, like a compute arithmetic mean for a given set of observations. Now, it seems from the problem statement itself, it seems to specify the computation which we wish to get performed by the computer. However, it is in fact too imprecise for the computer to do the desired calculations because a lot of things are not specified here. Like, for example, what are the observed values? How many are there? Are the missing or zero values to be included? What are the types of values that we are going to use for computing arithmetic mean? And so on. Now, come to the algorithm. Now, you can define algorithm as a process or set of rules to be followed in calculation or other problem solving operations. Can also be referred to as a set of rules or instructions that step by step define how a work is to be executed upon in order to get the expected results. Students, you can also consider algorithm as a sequence of finite, unambiguous steps to compute or to perform, expect to perform a certain task. This, as I had mentioned here, sequence of finite, unambiguous step. Each and every word has got a meaning. Like sequence means each and every instruction should be in sequence. Sequence of finite means the set of steps that you are going to write as a part of algorithm should be finite. You cannot have an infinite number of. And unambiguous means every instruction should have a single meaning. You cannot have an alternate. Each and every instructions that you are going to define as a part of your algorithm. And as it is shown in the diagram also, an algorithm can have input. An algorithm is always for a certain output. The algorithm output. Now, while writing the algorithm, there are certain characteristics that which we take care of, and because every algorithm is supposed to satisfy, supposed to follow, supposed to have those characteristics. The first characteristics, it's clear and unambiguous, which has been mentioned while defining the algorithm also. Means algorithm should be clear and unambiguous, means each and every instruction should be clear and unambiguous. It should not have a different, more than one meaning, or each means each instruction should have a single meaning, should not have multiple meaning. Second characteristics is it should have, if an algorithm has got an input, it should be well defined. Every algorithm must clearly define the output, and it should be well defined as well. Finiteness, algorithm must be finite. It should not end up in an infinite loops similar, which was also mentioned while defining the algorithm. You cannot have an algorithm having a finite number of instructions. The algorithm is simple, generic, and practical, such that it can be executed upon with the available resource. Must not contain some future technology or is independent. When we always remember, students, when we write down algorithm, we do not consider any particular language in. Therefore, algorithm is always, because you'll study in your subsequent classes, algorithm written in using a pseudocode, which is language independent. Doesn't follow any syntax of any language. So the algorithm using pseudocode algorithm written in the form of plain instructions that can be implemented in any language, and yet the output. Then while designing algorithm, there are certain prerequisites that we need to take care of. The first one is the problem that is to be solved by this algorithm, the constraints of the problem that must be considered while solving the problem, the input to be taken to solve the problem, the output to be expected, the problem is solved, and lastly, the solution to this problem, the given constraint. Now, this prerequisite is again going to be demonstrated with the help of an example. So, here the example that we have considered is adding three numbers and print the sum. And while designing algorithm for this particular problem, we'll first consider how the prerequisite are taken. The first prerequisite is the problem that is to be solved with algorithm. Here the problem is adding three numbers and print their sum. Second is the constraints of the problem that must be considered while solving the problem. Here the constraint is you can have only digits for these three numbers. You cannot have, except digits, you cannot have any character. Number third prerequisite here is the input to be taken to solve the problem. Here the input that we'll be considering is numbers which is added. The fourth prerequisite, the output to be expected when the problem is solved. The sum of the three numbers taken as input, and sum is the output which is expected from this problem. And lastly, the solution to this problem in the given constraint. Here the solution consists of adding three numbers, as we know, be done with the help of plus operator, b2 operator, any other method. So thus this problem has demonstrated, this this problem has been used for demonstrating all the five prerequisites. While writing algorithm, as has been defined as a finite sequence of finite unambiguous steps. For this particular problem, we are going to write down this finite sequence of steps. That's why, as it is mentioned as a sequence of steps, therefore, while writing algorithm, always remember you need to have numbering, because this number shows what is the sequence of execution. Apart from that, always remember each algorithm should have a start and end, because you should have a finite number of steps infinite for writing an algorithm. Next, for this, now here also we are considering the same problem, adding three numbers and pairs. So first statement, as obvious, it is start and end. Second statement, we are considering, because for adding three numbers, we three values, and this three variable value, so this three values, we are three variable, and which is termed as num1, num2, and num. First statement is after start, it is declaring three variables. The second one is input statement you can consider, because here we are taking three numbers which is added. So take three numbers to be added as input in the variable is num1, num2, num3 respectively. So first number will come to num1, second number will come to num2, and third number to num3. After that, as we know, for because the problem is adding three numbers and print their sum, so after making addition of the three numbers, we need to set the value in a variable so that we can print the value at the end. So therefore, we are declaring another variable as a part of fourth statement. Declare an integer variable sum to store the resultant. Here, remember, here you observe that the variable sum we are considering as integer variable. Why we are considering it as an integer variable? Because the input variables are also integer, and all of you know that sum of integer. So therefore, the resultant should also be an integer. In the fourth statement, we are declaring sum as an integer. And the fifth statement, we are writing adding three numbers and store the result in the sum. And finally, in the sixth statement, we are printing the value. Output statement, we are printing the value, sum, and finally end. Now, student, you observe that here each and every statement, if you observe thoroughly, you find that each statement all are unambiguous. And moreover, here, while writing each and every statement, we are not following any syntax of any programming language. It is finite, it is in sequence, is it is not ambiguous, unambiguous. So we can consider, as we have observed, that all the characteristics of your algorithm satisfied. So you can consider it as a algorithm. Of course, we'll study algorithm in a subsequent class. Thus, in this particular lecture, we have briefed about the problem solving strategies, we have about algorithm definition, have studied characteristics of algorithm, and moreover, we have demonstrated writing an example. Now, these are the references that you can follow. If you have any doubt, you can just contact me. Address.